Hello, and welcome to the Sovereign Collective podcast, where we bring you real, raw truth for your self-empowerment. I'm your host, Sascha and I believe that you can stand on your own 2 feet, but that you don't have to do it alone. I love learning from people who continually strive to raise the bar, to go against mainstream thinking, and who dare to question the general consensus. People who risk being ridiculed or even risk the loss of their professional status as they bravely question the common narratives and challenge the rest of us to expand our minds and to reconsider what we think we already know. Join me in learning how to take control of your health and your mind so that you can have the energy to think more clearly and the confidence to step up and take responsibility for all aspects of your life. We promise to never censor here because I believe you are strong enough to hear the real, raw truth to make up your own mind. If you like what you find here at the Sovereign Collective podcast, then please share with your friends and family. I so appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. And now, on to the show. Welcome to episode 104 of the Sovereign Collective podcast. Today, I am joined by my man and life partner, Tymothy Roy, or Tym to me. Tym is a student of relationships and has truly mastered both the art of being in one and coaching people in them. And with his relationship is everything framework, he deals with all relationships, with self, with another, and with the world at large. And if we aren't here to learn and know who we are, I don't know what the heck we are here for. So today's topic is why relationships fail and how to get them right. And I know many will benefit from listening to this episode fully, and I would dare say likely more than once. Tym does not have much of an online presence, so you can find him at tymothyroy.com. That's TYMOTHYROY, and the link will be in the show notes, of course. And also at gettingrelationship.right.com for current and future offerings. Tym does group coaching. He does individual coaching. Heck, I really think he needs to get out there and do corporate coaching, but that's just me. And he also offers you a free initial session or consult to see if working with him is a good thing. And he's also launching soon some online classes as well that you can follow at your own leisure. So listen up and let's get back into the art of relationship, because I feel like they're really breaking down out there. And I feel really blessed to be in the relationship that I am. And I just wish that for more people out there in this world. And before we get into that, just remember that if you go to sovereigncollective.org/shop, you can access my store where I'm curating more and more products and access to different things, because if I want to get to these things at a better price, I'm feeling that other people want to as well. There's New Earth Organics, amazing tonic herbs. There's Alitura. I've already gotten amazing feedback from several people since my last interview on that line. Cultivate Elevate with Matt Roski. He's got an amazing lineup of products. I've also got a new cordyceps that you can get access to for 15% off. That is award-winning. We've got Living Libations, beautiful skincare within here in Canada. We've got LifeWave, those phototherapy patches, still wearing those every day, and I am absolutely loving them and hearing more and more stories about them. We've got some other things coming as well. So check those out, support the podcast, share the episode, like, subscribe, comment on YouTube, find it on BitChute, iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and now enjoy the show. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sovereign Collective podcast. I am joined in studio today with my man, Tymothy Roy, or Tym to me. And we are going to have another interesting conversation about relationships, why they fail, why they succeed, basically why relationships fail and how to get them right. Because I feel like the failure rate is higher, or maybe the truth of the relationship is coming out more, or I don't know. The dynamic is definitely changing for sure. And you're a big man when it comes to relationships in terms of understanding, living it. We are about to hit 20 years together. Bing. By the time this comes out, it'll be maybe a couple weeks away. We will be 20 years together, and it has been easy, natural, very little conflict. no, and not compromising in order to keep the peace. It's just been an easy, natural process from day one. And I'm gonna share just a little bit about how this all started before we get into Tim's
Do you want me to leave?
expertise here.
I want to speak to them privately.
I'm not going to get into any detail, but basically, I jumped him at a party, legit, uh, almost 20 years ago. And it's the best thing I ever did. I met him when he was absolutely not looking for a relationship, right? There was a mutual friend who suggested we get together, and that didn't really fly in the beginning. But through a series of different events and things, we just met up with each other a few times. And when I accosted him in the kitchen of that party, I really got his attention. Be it you were at the lowest point of your life. Like your dad had passed and that relationship wasn't, what maybe you wanted from that or needed at the time, who knows what now. You had been cheated on again. Your whole business plans and future plans blew up in your face, and you were at the lowest point of low. And he wasn't looking for me. He wasn't looking for a relationship, but he was looking for truth. And he was looking to understand this all because he knew he was the common denominator to everything that happened in his life.
Yeah. I was committed to getting to the bottom of it.
He's committed to getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
We've been together ever since that day. It's one of the best things I ever did. And it's been easy. And I watch people start these relationships and almost right off the bat, there is struggle, there is drama, there is controversy, there's something. It's like, well, that's a sign. That's a sign that that might not be the right thing for you, right? There might be something better waiting, or I don't know, it's forced. So we're going to go into Tim is a student of relationship and he's dedicated to our relationship. I am too, but he sees it from a different perspective because he really studies it. And what I really love is that our son, who's going to be 17 years old very soon, is just naturally picking that stuff up. And it's noticeable. It's noticeable by friends. It's noticeable that he just does these things naturally. And I'm so glad that he has an amazing role model to see as a man, but also to grow in a house, to grow up in a house with a healthy relationship. Because I think there's probably not, talk to a lot of people. A lot of people have a lot of interesting stories of growing up and a lot of drama and a lot of not, let's say, just negative examples of relationship, which what they grew up with. A lot of broken homes. So we are going to get into that today. So thank you, honey, for being here with me again. Because last time we did, if you haven't seen we've done a few, but the last one on the masculine and feminine is called "Where Have All the Men Gone?" I don't remember the number of the episode, but it's definitely worth a listen because we're really talking to masculine and feminine, and we'll definitely get into the masculine and feminine energies as well. And who knows? We didn't actually plan this exactly what we're going to talk about. We're just going to talk about it. We're going to talk about why relationships fail and how to get them right. So, honey, before we talk about that, why did you become so enamored with studying the art of relationship?
Oh man, that's a great question. I don't think everyone's ever asked me that question.
Hmm.
Probably because of pain. Like, really, the relationships kept not working out. So, like you said, this is from because I said it. I'm like, I'm the common denominator. And so where it all started was I decided I made a choice that blame was no longer an option. So I was committed to getting to know that if this is my world, I'm the common denominator of it all. And at the time, I was only thinking about the bad. But eventually, it's like, wait a minute, all the things that are good that's happening in my life, I'm also the common denominator. Right? And where's the common ground for those things? And looking backwards, I guess I certainly wasn't thinking about it this way. But looking back on it, the more things that I took 100% responsibility for have a tendency to work out. Mm-hmm. And so when we thought about having this conversation about why relationships fail, this is such a massive topic. Like we'll talk about some of the standard issue reasons about why relationships fail. in the relationship dynamic, but there's also some other things. There's some elephants in the rooms kind of thing that I think we ought to do well to tackle because a lot of people, it'll trigger a lot of people, I'm sure, to find out that you might be being trained to fail in relationship and not know it.
Oh, I think that's pretty obvious when you look at some of the major psyops out there,
Yeah.
right? And we touched on this in our last talk with, you know, women thinking they can do it all, right? No, you're not a woman. There's so many things just around the whole masculine feminine thing, that topic and how that's the dance and that's the beauty of nature. It's nature. That's not just people, that's animals, that's plants, that's said this before. It's power sockets, it's glassware, it's everything. There's a female end and there's a male end, and they work together. So
Yeah. But I agree, it does feel like it's accelerating. And you can take this from a whole bunch of different ways. Like in the traditional Chinese calendar perspective, we're leaving the year of the snake and going into the year of the fire horse, right? And I think the first year in the Chinese calendar this year is February 17th, I think.
I don't know. The
Someone,
first year?
someone,
What do you mean the
first day of the year of the new
I thought it
year.
was earlier. I
It
don't know.
doesn't matter. But
I don't
what matters is we're at the end, the tail end of the snake, if you will.
Right.
The year of the snake and going into this horse year. And so there's a lot of talk about people having the energy of the snake and the shedding of the skin and, expanding into your new self and all this stuff. And horses about it, getting to it, right? I'm no expert in that stuff, but it's if that works for you, it's a great opportunity to utilize and harness that energy because this would be a great year to grab hold of the reins of your own relationship world and open and broaden your horizons as to why things maybe not working out for you. So right now, I'm putting together a relationship alchemy course that's really based on solving or addressing the question, am I in the right relationship?
Right.
Okay. And I think I'm maybe a good place to start because there might be a lot of people or several people, maybe no people listening to this who might be having that thought of, am I in the right relationship? And they'll have a tendency to start blaming things in the relationship. He did this, doesn't do that, she does, blah, 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 all this stuff. But right off the bat, one of the things that I promote when working with people is if you are in a relationship that you're questioning, I encourage you to consider this. I invite you to earn your exit. Okay. Earn your exit. That means you have to go through the firestorm of, have I let go of blame? Have I taken 100% responsibility, right? For why this is in my life. I'm not talking about the behaviors of another, right? But I'm talking about, I'm 100% responsible for being in this relationship. And to do everything that you can do to have the relationship bring to the top its truth. Because sometimes relationships are just better to dissolve, right? And sometimes, but so my goal when working with folks is to put them through a pressure cooker, if you will. And at the end of that, the truth of the relationship will emerge and it'll either bond or break.
So, and that's really important because when Tym works with people, he's not trying to save anybody's marriage or save their relationship. He is looking to get to the truth of that relationship. Are you still meant to be together or are you meant to leave? And what is the truth? It's just basically the truth. And that's really about what this whole show is about, is truth. And if there's if there's something else that's actually I find out to be true, then I'm going to embrace that when I can really see, oh, okay, I've said this before as well. So the truth of our relationship as well, because people cling to these far, like long over relationships because they are terrified of being alone. Not because they still believe in that relationship, even they're afraid of the unknown, right? They're afraid of being alone. People are terrified of being alone, but then that probably would speak to the relationship with themselves.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about, in your opinion, some of the main reasons why relationships fail.
Okay. Let's start with some of the more standard stuff first, then we'll get into some of the juicier.
Okay.
Because we'll talk about there's some strategies and stuff that you can that you do. Like there's lots. Like heck, there's a world of people out there who will be happy to offer you opinions about how you can work on your relationship. I encourage you to find out how their relationship is going first, before you ever talk or engage with somebody.
Or if they're single.
Or if they're perpetually single and can't hold a relationship. There's quite a few relationship coaches out there like that. But let's just go through some itemized things first, and then there's some more general but deeper things that I want to also suggest that you can look
Okay.
into.
Okay.
Um, one of the something one of the fatal ways to go into a relationship is basically looking what you can get out of the relationship. You probably heard someone saying, I'm just not getting what I need out of the relationship, or something like this. And there's a great attitude adjustment, because there's a few things I'm going to mention here, but we're going to separate them, but they work in concert together. So if you can change your mind, your awareness from what can I get out of the relationship to what can I give, right? How am I giving to my relationship? And it's a little different attitude, and it goes a lot deeper than just the words, because this gets into understanding how things are provided for in relationship. We can talk about the masculine and feminine a little bit like we did last time, because the masculine responds to different things than the feminine responds to. And another one of the big issues is it's kind of like gift giving. So as you know, I'm a big wine guy. And if I don't know what to get somebody, my default thing will say, well, oh, I got them a nice bottle of wine.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe, just maybe, I haven't considered, do they actually like wine? Do they value wine? Like, what
Do they drink?
do they drink? Drink at all?
There's a
Like,
lot of non-drinking going on these days. So,
there
yeah.
is.
Mm-hmm.
There is. But what I'm getting at is people often will give in the manner that they would like to receive.
Right.
And that really breaks down in the masculine and feminine energetics.
Yes.
Okay. But then it also gets into personality characteristics and things. So, if you can bring yourself to get into the letting go of this idea of what can I get? I'm not getting this. I'm not getting my needs met. We'll talk about needs later. But this whole idea of getting, it's just the concept of getting and switching it over to giving, because there's something at work here in this world that people refer to as the law of reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give, and you give not to get, but just because that's how you want to roll in the world, there's a reciprocal energy that seems to make a flywheel of you will receive. Might not look like how you thought it would receive, you'll receive it, but as long as you're giving, you trust how this place works, there will be a reciprocity that comes your way, and it builds trust, and you become a trustworthy soul, and people can feel that.
That's a trait that I definitely appreciate in people. Consistency, authenticity, trustworthy. Because I don't know. I mean, it's solid, right?
Well,
It's
it's
a
solid,
solid trait.
and it has no neediness to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
people who don't come up, people who give with expectations. We're also going to talk about expectation. These all go back to my principles too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the principles I work with is expectation is the precursor to disappointment. So if I have an expectation of somebody, then inadvertently what I'm doing is I'm wanting to get something from them. So I'm setting myself up for disappointment.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a proponent of the idea if you're going to work with expectations, they ought not to be outside of yourself. Like have expectations of yourself. Expect yourself to do a great job, do your best, you know, seek to understand and let go of the need to be understood so much. And that's what, so in the list of things I wanted to talk about, I've mentioned a few already because they all kind of work together. But changing your awareness from giving or from getting to giving. How can I give in my relationship? All right. And then understanding the balances between the dance between the masculine and feminine and what does giving look like for each one of them. Find out what your partner needs to be provided for them because if you are even giving once again from what you would like to get, you're missing the boat already and you're setting yourself up for inadvertent controversy. What ends up happening is the polarity just
Like, don't give me power tools.
like don't give you power tools
No.
unless you love power tools, but you don't.
Unless I love power tools. That is not, I would much prefer yarn over power tools.
Right.
This guy would like some tools.
Yeah. Totally.
And a backpack to put them in. That was one of his Christmas presents. He was so excited.
I was talking to somebody, this guy I know, and he was like, I never give people what they want, like for birthdays or Christmas or whatever.
Really?
He goes out of his way to not get them what they want, so it could be a surprise, but he can maybe be seen as someone who's put a lot of thought into the yada yada yada, right? And I'm like, well, okay, great. Maybe that works in your world. In my world, if I go out of my way to get Sascha what she wants, then what I've done is I've invested in my relationship in a different way because I know she wants it, and I know it's something that can make what she's doing in her life even more enjoyable, right? And so
He's very good at that.
So
Yeah.
People are funny about gift giving. People ask yourself this: do you have any attachment when you give a gift?
I would say most people would. They want you, well, you want the person to like it, to appreciate it, you don't want them to turn around and give it to somebody else, right? You do. I think that's natural. And it's probably something to work on, right? They didn't ask for it. If they didn't ask for it and you expect them to like it, better. Well, there's an expectation.
It's an expectation, and this travels back to this idea of what does taking 100% responsibility of my life look like? So, take this or leave it. I'm sure like lots of people disagree with this, but just going with what I find works. If you take 100% responsibility for how you are in relationship, and it doesn't matter if that's your primary relationship with a sibling, child, associate, whatever. But you take 100% responsibility. Let's say you gather a gift and you give the gift. If that gift was given from a place of loving 100% responsibility, then the gift is freely given. The act of the gift giving is complete in the act of giving the gift.
Giving, right. That's all right.
Right?
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to, you just said it fine. I'm trying to show that I understand it, but it's just well said. Okay.
But you'll check. How did you like it? Did you think? Well, it wasn't really my thing. And then you might find yourself deflate because in the work that I do with people, I help them understand like there's you, there's another, and then there's the relationship with the other. So I'm kind of quasi known as the relationship is everything guy. So it's not the other thing, it's your relationship to that thing, no matter what it is. That relationship can be with a thought, an individual, work, career, substance, whatever it is, right? The thing, but it's your relationship to the thing. And that's that's the true beauty of the diversity of this place, is because it doesn't really, not the same thing doesn't work for everybody.
No.
But the one thing that's why I like working with principles as opposed to systems or this when it comes to this, because whoever I'm sitting with, they are the curriculum. Their life situation is the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And we have tools to work with that curriculum. Right. So if there's a principle, so if I take 100% responsibility, what does that look like? And that word responsibility is actually kind of an interesting word. It's like the ability to respond as opposed to, say, reactability, which lots of people are in reaction mode in their,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yes. That blame is such a big one because there is a lot of blame going on, but you shift that energy. Energetically, it just will shift because if you just see it outside of you and you're blaming outside of you, as soon as you own that, even if it was their fault, for example, but if you own whatever part in it or don't take it personally or whatever, you just shift the energy. And as Wayne Dyer so nicely said, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a different vibe. And a different vibe will attract a different vibe, a different response.
Absolutely. Like one of the principles that I work with is born out of the Course in Miracles work. And it's, I'm not upset for the reason I think.
Mm-hmm.
And if you open yourself up to that idea, because this isn't, it's not about even the thing that you're talking about. I'm not angry for the reason I think. I'm not disappointed for the reason I think. I'm not, even thrilled for the reason I think. If you can take responsibility that maybe, just maybe, you're not the center of your own universe in a sense. So what you think, your thoughts, how you are reacting to things is not necessarily the truth. Then new possibilities begin to emerge.
Just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's true.
Correct.
Right. And people get very tied to those thoughts.
Very, and then we slide into the world of identity. And
Oh,
so, and this gets into some of the bigger, more meatier subjects.
okay. So as we go into that, what other pedestrian reasons for failures of relationships?
Well, one of the main ones is a complete misunderstanding of what needs are. People will say, I'm not getting my needs met, when a relationship breakdown is happening. But through inquiry, further inquiry, my experience has been that they don't even really understand what their needs are. I need him to do this. I need her to do that. Well, that's not a need getting met. That's a demand that you're putting on someone else so it doesn't trigger something that's unresolved in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the more you can actually take responsibility and make sure that you have exhausted all of your upsettednesses around something, whatever that something is. Like take one situation, one thing that pissed you off in your relationship, and then learn how to go resolve the feelings around it, and then that opens up a new possibility to see it differently. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later.
Yeah, when we're getting them right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Right. And when it comes to needs, I'm a big proponent of Chloe Adonis's 6 human needs. Everybody needs need for certainty. This is what do you need to feel stable, certain things you can count on in your life, security, stability, routine, that kind of stuff. But just as we need those things to feel certain, stable, and secure in our life, if that's where life just stayed, it would get
Boring.
So in that work, the need for uncertainty it exists as well. And other words for uncertainty are adventure, fun, spontaneity, novelty, variety, right? Surprise. Like I love surprising Sascha.
Does it a lot. Although sometimes I'm just 2 minutes too early.
And
Often.
blow it for quite a bit. I could be upset about that, or I can have some humor around it.
Yeah.
And humor is one of the antidotes, by the way. Not spiteful humor, not sarcastic humor, not cynical humor, but using humor to bring light to a situation. That's one of the actual antidotes that work through all of these things, right? Find a way to put a smile on your face because it'll change a lot of things. All right, so we have certainty, we have uncertainty, and then we have significance. Is right. The idea that you matter, to feel like you matter, that you have, then you're significant in some way. You're recognized as something. Some people will chase status for this.
Right. And I'm sure there's going to be healthy and unhealthy
Yeah.
manifestations of these needs.
Absolutely. And I was going to get there, but you're 2 minutes too early again. So one of the things that people misunderstand about needs is you are getting them met no matter what. You will get the need met no matter what. And if you can't get it met in a healthy, constructive way, you will get it met in a destructive, unhealthy way. Well, sometimes a benign way, like something that doesn't do anything for you. But you will get that need met no matter what. Period. End of story.
Okay.
So certainty, uncertain. So for instance, a certainty. Let's say you secretly hold a belief that all men are pigs. Right? I know nobody does hold that belief, but let's just pretend that there's a woman that says, in this case, in this example, that all men are pigs. Well, what's the likelihood of success in relationship, number one, if that's one of the precursors of your operating system? But also, if you make manifest opportunities to prove that right, you can be absolutely certain that that is true. And that's building a certainty into your life.
And you will probably reaffirm that constantly because that's what you're looking for. And that's in the universe doesn't make you a liar, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keeps on just ticking.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's important to examine what are those primary thoughts that come into your mind especially that are in opposition to what it is that you say that you want. So like that's an example. So let's talk about the fourth human need. So we have certainty, uncertainty, significance, and then there's love and connection. Okay, so these four are what are referred to as like the mandatory needs. Everybody needs some of these four needs in different hierarchies, depending on who you are. So everybody needs a little bit of certainty. Everybody needs some uncertainty. Everybody needs to feel significant, right? So maybe a negative way is to, keep up with the Joneses. Right? You feel like you're significant because you build a bigger house, you have a nicer car, you do this, but you're like mortally unhappy underneath, right? So you're getting the need for significance met, but it's something that's it's constantly diminishing you.
I think there's a lot of that happening.
There's a lot of that happening. And then there's
it covers what you see is not representative of what's really underneath.
Yeah, right. And that's and we're taught that, we're indoctrinated that, put your best foot forward, right? Further, you can't ever, there's what's the one? Something about first impressions.
You only have one chance to make a first impression.
Yes, you only have one chance to make a first impression, right? This kind of stuff. And they're not there's a morsel of truth in it, but once again, it's your relationship to this thing. Because anything that's true, anything that can be real, can be revisited over and over again through open communication and the willingness to explore. Like, what was your first impression of me?
I don't know. I don't remember
Right? Okay, well, there you go.
the very
So
first time.
never a chance. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So the first impression here is like, I don't remember.
Well, I remember when I know I had seen you years before, but it was when we were at that one event and we were at those tables,
Oh, yeah.
like I was
Yeah.
here and you were across the way on the
Yeah.
other one. And then we talked at the break.
Yeah.
He came by because he heard me laughing and he wanted to hear who was at the end of my laugh.
Yeah.
We ended up talking and
Totally. And I was in the lowest spot of my life at the time, but
and you were about to go fire walking and you asked me if I wanted to go fire walking with you and I said no.
let's get back on track.
Okay, so there's two more.
There's two more. There are two more.
Okay, so what are the
But
other
I want to
two?
do love and connection. I just want to speak to it for a moment because if you can't find love, you'll settle for connection.
Okay.
Okay. But you can also connect with people, and that's also good and healthy most or some of the time. Because big shocker, news break. Believe it or not, guess what? One of the number one ways that people connect is
By commiserating.
commiserating. They have problems.
Yes.
So you get together and you talk about your problems, right?
Yes.
Oh no, isn't that awful? That's terrible. Da, 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 da.
Yes.
He did what? He did. She's a what? What? All of this stuff. And so that's an unhealthy way to feel connection and feel cared for in your life. It's not building you up. It'll diminish you over time, but it brings that sense. So you're going to get those connections or those needs met. So those are the four mandatory ones. Everybody needs those. Then there's two that are considered pseudo optional. And that's for growth and contribution, right? If I'm growing, it's a growing experience, right? So some people, to have their feeling their need for growth to be satisfied, they'll continue to sabotage their life.
Yeah.
Okay. Create sabotaging patterns so you can just continue to grow. I gotta grow. Right? That's one of them. And then contribution is another one, like contributing something's bigger than you. There's really healthy versions of that. And then there's unhealthy versions of that. There's unhealthy versions of being, for instance, people getting so wrapped up in a cause or a political party or whatever. Get something that gets you emotionally captivated, that it takes you and you start lending your energy to it, but it's actually causing you not to look at it. It's actually preying on unresolved stuff inside of you.
And it's that emotional charge around it that takes you away, right? It's a bit of a spell.
It is.
You see what's going on out there these days, people getting so wrapped up in these perceived, is not even reality, a lot of it, right? All this creation of all this theater going on right now. It's scary, and people are easily led.
Absolutely.
Because they haven't done that work.
They haven't done the work.
They are.
They have the instant gratification through social media and all this stuff. You get your little dopamine hit. You are no longer investigating. Even if you started the process, you might get taken off track of looking inside and finding out where your come from is, like where you begin.
Just think, imagine if everybody just turned it all off, except for this podcast. Turned it all off and just looked within and just resolved and decided to put their energy in their home and in their family and in their selves rather than out there. But everybody would benefit from that as a result.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So these needs.
Yes.
Not getting your needs met is the short answer. We just kind of finished a longer answer of that. But ultimately, how those needs get met within a relationship dynamic is part of the magic. Okay. And it can start with one, by the way. One of you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right.
Right. If you understand, here's an interesting thing. So one of the principles that I mentioned earlier was to seek to understand and let go of the need to be understood. Because everybody is, he just doesn't understand me, or she doesn't understand. There's all this stuff that people are inadvertently demanding of another, expectations, to for them to then to take the time to understand where you're coming from or what you need. But you don't understand why you need it, what those needs are, how they get met. You've never explored it, right? So it's making a demand that's sort of empty because you haven't done the exploration of what that actually means. So when you know what it means and you get to explore it from a more cohesive framework and see how it all begins to work together, your desire, your addiction for neediness begins to disappear. Because when you understand where that, if you keep with that process, if you keep with the commitment to learn how to understand, like I'm going to understand whatever it is, I'm getting it, I'll get this deeper, I'll continue to look into it. And then your framework changes, or your frame of reference changes. And then if you ever need to be understood, you will take the responsibility to put it into words that the other person can understand until they understand and you feel understood. But that's in other words, being understood is my responsibility.
Right. Okay. That turns it around completely.
Completely.
Because there are some people, and I know some people like this, they have this desperate need to be understood. And just like that should be a matter of fact thing that people need to understand. Well, I'm never really going to truly understand. I haven't lived your life. I don't have your perspectives. There are some things that probably going to be more easily understood than others, but that desperate need to understood is obviously an indication of something deeper.
Yeah.
Of an opportunity. So many opportunities is just
so many opportunities.
So many opportunities. Every time I go outside and I see some wacky thing happen, I'm just, what an opportunity. I don't always rise to the occasion, but I work at it and I watch it though. I watch my response. And I watch, but there is a lot of opportunity for growth these days.
There is for sure. And I think we mentioned this in our last conversation that we did like this. But even this idea that laws are being drafted, legislation being drafted to make it illegal to offend somebody, to squeal on somebody. I just saw a video today where in the UK, bartenders and servers, you heard about this?
If they overhear a conversation.
If they overhear about conversation, if it's found out, how I understood it is if it's found out that the establishment knew that this conversation was happening and didn't report it, they can be held liable for it. Like, it's just fucking so crazy.
It's so crazy. And we just went back to a video on YouTube that my computer has a lot of things open, so it's closing some stuff. But one video that was up yesterday was no longer there because it violated hate speech laws. That's the first time I've seen that message on there. So they removed it due to hate speech laws. I don't know which video it was. I wish I remembered which one it was. I was wondering if it was one of mine actually. But
and if you ever wonder which way is more valid, one of the things you can do is you can kind of exaggerate it all the way to the end on both ends. So exaggerate that we live in a world where everybody has to abide by regulations that they don't offend people. Okay? That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is that everybody learns to take 100% responsibility for their own experience of this world.
Right.
Which direction feels more healthy?
Let me think about that. Yeah.
And this is just one example. It's a way to explore whether or not whatever you're doing is
I do that a lot.
going in the direction.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes
And
sense.
just to expand it and blow it up to the point of ridiculousness, and it will it will give you some insight. So
should we get into the engineering of the breakdown of relationships? Or do you have other things that you want to say about what you see? Like some quick, like without breaking them all down.
Yeah.
Maybe just some other things quickly that you see that are common traits that are causing relationship breakdown.
Okay. Well, it's building on just what we've been talking about, instant gratification, social media, and all this stuff, is never underestimate the power of presence. If you're not present, your communication will fail eventually.
Right.
It cannot not fail. Okay.
Presence.
So presence is extremely potent and powerful. But another one is misunderstanding priorities. So an example of that would be, like, ask yourself, do you know anybody who, like, I do it all for my kids. Everything I do is for my kids. Well, if your primary relationship isn't the priority, then your kids are going to feel that from the get-go, and it leads to inadvertent programming that doesn't breed trust. It doesn't build trust in the kids. Because they're inadvertently modeling what's happening in the primary relationship that they were born out of. So one of the things that is essential is to ensure that your relationship is a priority. Okay. Never use the kids as a tool, for instance, to not deal with what's happening in your relationship and how you are in relationship. Not fair to the kids, not a good example. That doesn't mean that your kids aren't, like, absolutely important, right? It just means that you want to lead by example. What do you want for your kids? Do you want your kids to have healthy relationships? Then maybe, just maybe, lead by example and learn how to be in relationship from this place of relaxation. So,
from this place of relaxation,
or sorry, ease is a better word. Like, I feel very relaxed in our relationship. I don't ever feel it.
Okay.
Well, most of the time I don't feel it. Not ever. Okay. Only the Sith deal in absolutes, as Obi-Wan Kenobi said.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where was I going to go with
So primary relationship needs to be priority. And I think that's really important when we model, like, when we're seeing it in ourselves. We only have one, but I tell you, N of one, it's coming through already. And he's 16 years old and he's been displaying specific traits for a while now. And it warms my heart because that boy is going to be gold for some girl one day.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
And I talk to a lot of women and I talk to them about their experience in relationship. And some of them just don't believe that it exists, that it's possible. Many these days don't, especially if they're a bit older and they're looking for a new relationship, right? So
Yeah.
there are a lot of people, and men too, and men as well. There's, it's not always the woman that's dealing with the man. Sometimes it's the other way around.
Absolutely.
But it is possible out there. But it takes effort and willingness and not settling a lot of, and maybe that's why some relationships are doomed to fail right from the get-go, because they settled. Because people settled because they were terrified of being alone. And somebody came along to fill the void.
Yeah. Fill the void good enough.
Right. Good enough for how long? Probably not for very long. Yeah. Right. Okay. Other common traits?
Well, what you had just asked before I went into those last two were this idea of how it's been engineered. So if we've spoken to anything that's kind of like gotten under your thing, got your goat a little bit or something like that. Here's some news for you that may enlighten you, may not. I don't know.
Just say it. They're used. This audience used to
This is
this audience. I mean, we just talked about mind control with Jason Christoph. It's all good. We
yeah.
know.
All
We
right.
know.
Well, we're going to be talking about mind control with Tymothy Roy because there, if you really want to start exploring how it seems to be operating, you start following money. Who would benefit financially from the demise of your relationship? If you can't keep your relationship world together, who benefits?
Lawyers.
Lawyers benefit, and then you put your kids in daycare, for instance, and then a daycare or a school, an education system, a whatever, where their curriculum is training those kids to be a certain way uh, over time. That's how they're going to get and so it gets expensive, right?
What gets it? Okay, well,
Sorry,
what?
I'm leaping ahead. So if you follow the money, so what's the benefit of breaking apart a family unit where you have like one provider, like financial provider? So historically has been the man. It doesn't have to be the man, but if you break down this family unit and promote absolute independence, not to be confused with individuality, who would benefit from that? How would things be financially benefited by breaking apart relationships, causing identity crises in people, um, have people move further and further away from knowing who they are and what makes them tick, move them further and further away to be from being imperturbable, which is a word I love. I think with the world be
That
a
does
much
not
better
describe
place.
the average person these days.
It does not,
It
right?
doesn't describe me. I can definitely be perturbed. I'm working on being imperturbable, but I can be. There's a lot of things to piss you off these days. Or they're in there. It's on purpose.
And it is because, this civil unrest is like who would benefit from civil unrest and like having neighbors turn on neighbors or uh, this religious system break against that religious system and
So okay, so where's all the money going? Where are you seeing that? Answer your question.
okay. Almost wish I wouldn't have said that. Only because it starts when I start tracking it, it becomes a really long blah 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 thing that's difficult to summarize. But if you can have both parents working,
Mhm.
because inflation is like things are inflating, but why are things inflating? It doesn't cost any more to to grow a potato out of the ground, right? It doesn't cost more unless it's being caused to cost more,
It's a lot of cause.
right?
Yeah.
And so now then you have uh, both parents working. Kids need to be put in daycare or school, so they're not raising their kids, and the values of the parents are not being. And there's so many potential breakdown points in relationship. Doesn't matter if it's the primary relationship, the relationship with your kids, your relationship with work, because you start feeling guilty about not spending time with your kids. So that starts affecting your work. And like it's just goes on and on. And then when you are, I like Jason, you mentioned Jason Christoph.
Mhm.
I like the term that he uses called the brain scrambler.
Okay.
Okay. Because when you have that brain scramble and you don't know what to do, you become extremely susceptible to something,
Yeah.
right? And what's it? Who was I listening to? Oh, I think it was Chase Hughes. Chase Hughes was talking about how social media works. And if there's an ad, he said,
I checked it. I didn't see it like that
you
online.
didn't see it?
Order of the
order? Yeah. I don't know. I haven't checked it either,
but
but
it's designed in a way that things are put in an order of to elicit different emotions.
yes.
Right? Very intentionally.
And often what's just before an ad will be something like if I remember, like there'll be something that has a high potential or a potential to do a high trigger or a trigger of a high emotion, followed by something nice, followed by an ad, right? So you have a high emotional experience, like a repulsion to something or whatever, followed by something that opens your heart,
and cuddly.
sweet, cuddly, and then boom, there's an ad. And you'll be more susceptible to that ad. And anybody who thinks that they're not is probably even more susceptible. Right? Because learning, one of the people that I learned from had this thing, a tactic known as a tactic blown, which is helpful. You can be more and more aware, but the more and more aware of saying that you know that these are methodologies of influence that will cause you to connect your identity with it. Right? And there's lots and lots of money poured into having molding your identity.
And that is big because as soon as something in your life or a way of living your life becomes the identity of who you are,
you'll defend
you're
it.
So bought in.
You'll defend it.
You will defend it, even if it doesn't make any sense. It's to the irrational.
You will.
And this is what's happening. And people identify with their pain, with their gender orientation, with their causes. It's like it's them, but it's not them. And they are identifying with that. And we are supposed to acknowledge people for how they want to be referred to. It's like, well, that's not who you are. But it's been engineered that way, right?
It's been engineered for you to question your identity, then look. Mean old Dan Kennedy from the marketing world said the world is just full of people with their umbilical cords flopping around looking for somewhere to plug them in. Please tell me what to do, where to go, how to get it, all that kind of stuff. I think it's a great, visual metaphor. And I think it's Tony Robbins who refers to these things called the four horsemen. And the four horsemen are criticism, condemnation, defense or defendability, and stonewalling or defensiveness, and stonewalling. So if you catch yourself and just do your best to, because this is like a big, deep topic, but do your best to connect to the, or open yourself to the idea that if whoever can hold, I have this idea of like, who owns your energy, or sorry, who owns your awareness owns your energy. And this is a different way of saying, if I can get you to connect your identity to something because you haven't learned how to self-identify with, the deep part of what is imperturbable within you, then your identity will want to glom onto something. And it's done in so many ways, like movies. It's interesting about our relationship because you said it's been easy.
So easy.
So easy. So in the movies, they also teach that relationship can be easy, but they also mix that in with the contrary of that they're volatile and I blame Jerry Maguire about this whole
I still haven't seen that.
You complete me perspective, right? And so these are ideas that get in people's head and they don't have any experience from an experiential point of view about what those things mean. Like we have an experiential experience. I don't know, does that sounds redundant, but whatever.
It is.
that it's easy, but the only way that it can be that easy is because we have two people who actually take 100% responsibility for how they're being in the relationship. That makes sense?
Mhm.
Well, 100, maybe 98.
It's probably true.
And right, and working with humor with it, right? So the identity gets hooked onto these ideas. These ideas get pushed into relationship models that are self-centric. And this is one of the things. This is the idea of perception versus perspective, like Andrew Bustamante talks about, is have you ever heard anybody say, you just need to speak your truth? You ever heard someone say something like that?
Once or twice.
I'm just speaking my truth. Okay. That idea, I believe, comes from the psyop of breaking down relationship because it's the idea of this is the idea of perception. So I have my perceptions of things. So what that means is I feel like I am the center of my world and seeing how things fit into my world. Now, there's a seed of truth in that. There's like, who am I, where am I going, and who's coming with me? But when it comes to relationship building, you can have a lot more success in relationship by moving from perception to something called perspective. And perspective is, I heard it once said like this. This wasn't recent. This was a long time ago. Is the whole idea of being interested being in versus being interesting, right? If you're sharing your perceptions of thing, you're trying to be interesting. Maybe I'm doing that right now. I don't know, but I was asked to.
You're doing that because you're supposed to do that.
Whereas perspective in this understanding is taking the responsibility to see what the other is looking at and seeing what their perception is. How is someone else seeing this?
Mhm.
Okay. How I think the truth is this way because this is how I've experienced the truth. But my truth has been born out of all these beliefs and perceptions and all this shit, all the stuff that I've been hauling around with me my entire life.
Right.
Goes through a filtering process and I end up with my own perception of stuff. But if I want to take 100% responsibility in my communication style, I can abandon the perception and start looking through the lens of perspective. Like a perspective drawing. How things look differently depending on where they are.
Mhm.
Uh, well, if I try to see what the relationship looks like through the eyes of another, well, then I can glean a lot of data from that can help me better communicate. But I can only, and this is how these things all fit together, I can only lend to a stronger value of perspective if I'm present,
Yes.
for instance. Right? If I give up having an expectation of what it should look like.
Right.
Okay. So I can use these understandings to contribute to the relationship system in a different way than just from my own perception.
And I want to say something about that perception and perspective thing because I have some friends, they go on dating apps, thank God. I've never done that. We'll never do that. But they go on these dates. And in my experience, it's been my girlfriends going out with a guy, and they don't ask them anything about their lives. They come out of this date having not one question asked of them. And that guy just talked about this and talked about that, and then wants to see them again. It's like, but you don't know anything about me. What you don't even know who I am. Like, why would you even want to? Right? It's so crazy to me to not want to be curious about the person sitting opposite you of how they got to be here. now and what's led up to that. I don't get that. And I think that's a really good indicator of somebody's character and where they're coming from and just where they're at in their own awareness of things. Because how unaware can you be that you don't even ask about the person that you're with and meeting?
You know, what came to mind when you were talking about that was going back to being kids and getting your gold star. Right. So we now have
everybody gets a gold star.
Everybody gets a right.
First to last, gold.
And so you think about this in this Tinder dating kind of world, and it's almost as if people are coming to the date to see if the other person will give them their gold star. Like, did you pass? Right? You know, but it's weird. But it's a deeply seated indoctrination that happened from a long time ago, and like,
well, that's a big thing about how we raise our kids. And when I did a bunch of interviews of raising children, it's like the rewards and punishment, the idea of doing things for the reward and the punishment. You're not doing it for the joy or the satisfaction of the thing itself. It's more to either avoid the punishment or to get the reward, right? It's not internally motivated. And that is damaging, and that carries through because people aren't doing it for just for the thing itself.
Yeah.
There's something at the end of it.
One of the things that I'll repeatedly say throughout a coaching experience of somebody is to invite them to look at how, I say, well, how do you want to roll in this? Just my languaging. So this is how I want to roll in relationship. And you might change your awarenesses around that. I would like to be more imperturbable, for instance. I would like to be more aware of the needs of others, right? I would like to be able to give without diminishing myself, right?
That's a big key.
That is a big key.
That's a big key, which you didn't mention.
No, I didn't.
Actually in giving, but without to the detriment of your own self, and without, because you can't just, because there are relationships where it's all give on one side, it's all take on the other.
There is. Yeah. And then on the flip side of that is the art of receiving and ensuring that your needs are getting met. Because like receiving, for instance, is something that can help you feel significant. So if you're not getting your needs met in your relationship, well, probably go meet someone. If you meet someone who gets that need met, there might be some nakedness involved. Or it could be anything. It doesn't even just, it doesn't have to be an affair. It can be anything other than investing in the relationship that you have. And I like talking about a return on investment in relationship. Because I asked you, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but now I don't even remember how I came across this. But anyways, I came across this thing about compromise in relationship. Does compromise have any place in a healthy relationship? And I came to the conclusion that it does not. And
which is not the normal
which
view.
is not the normal view. Normal view is what?
Relationship requires compromise.
It's all about compromise. And then, so I came to you, and I think we mentioned this before, but I came to you and I asked, honey, do you ever feel like you've compromised in our relationship? And your answer was no. Because once you take 100% responsibility, you've changed your gone from perception into perspective. You live your life through the idea of principles instead of outcomes, and a basket of other things. What ends up happening is you'll never compromise, because once you understand what makes the relationship itself grow, you'll invest in that. So I will do things. I will go out of my way to do things. And it doesn't feel like sacrifice. It does not feel like compromise. It does not feel, it's a knowing that if I put a loony in, I get two loonies out somehow. Like if you had a magical machine where you put a loony in, every time you put a loony in, you got two loonies out, or even a loony and a nickel out, would you ever stop doing it?
Right.
Because there's always a higher return on the investment once you understand how the relationship dynamic works from a system point of view.
So have we talked about the things that you want to, so it's about how relationships go wrong and how to get them right. Are we, like you've mentioned a lot of things, I think, about how you can get them right, but are there other things specifically about getting them right? One thing that I really like about Tim and one of his principles is act or be as though you are a mind reader.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is a big one that you hear, and I think it's often the man saying that of the woman is like, it's like she thinks I'm a mind reader, or like she thinks I should be able to read her mind, or something like that. And there is truth to this, but it's not, you're not supposed to, so, but you're supposed to listen. So Tim is amazing at this. And I see this in people, I've seen this in people's relationships where one is communicating one thing and the other person is just ignoring. They're actually telling them without telling them, but they ignore it. So unpack that just for that, because I mean, it's helpful if you're like me and you talk out, you think out loud a lot, but there are ways to understand what the needs are of your partner.
Right. Now, on that note, just before people think that this is a strategy, because you talk out loud, but you're not talking out loud to get something.
No.
Right?
I just naturally
there's an important
I think out loud
thing to understand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the whole concept, this is the third tenet of five that I work with certain people, is especially men, is like to become a mind reader. Yeah, I'm not a mind reader. I'm like, well, become one. And it's way easier than you think, but it requires something that we've already talked about.
Presence.
Presence.
Mm-hmm.
By committing to being present, okay, and you can be focused and present at the same time, by the way. And what I mean by that is one of my favorite books is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And in that movie, little Santiago goes sorry, in the story. That might be a movie. I don't know. But in the story, in this one part, he ends up meeting a king and gets invited to this palace. Um, and the king says, "I'm busy, but I'm gonna invite you. I have a, like I said, I have a task for you." And he gives him a teaspoon and puts some oil, a couple of drops of oil in this teaspoon. He goes, "I want you to hold this oil in this teaspoon until we reconvene. And between now and then, you know, go and explore the grounds or whatever, right?" So Santiago goes off and he's just like focused on the spoon,
Right.
right? And is walking around this castle. And so when they get back together, the king basically goes, did you notice the big tapestries and this, or the great hall of that? And I don't remember exactly what the things are, but Santiago ultimately said no. And someone would say, well, how could you possibly miss it because you're walking through it? But he was so myopically focused on not spilling the oil that he missed all the lavish beauty and everything that he had the opportunity to experience. And so this king, who's this wise king, says, well, basically happiness and fulfillment will exist in the place where you can have your focus on not spilling the oil while you're taking in the beauty of the surroundings. And this is the idea of understanding masculine and feminine. So the focus on the spoon is the masculine, and the diffuse awareness is the feminine. And if you're present, you can have both. So I can be doing something, but if I'm present also to what's happening in my environment, I will hear Sascha talking about things, right? And And it doesn't bug me. Like some guys just like they can't deal with it. They have to, if uh when men don't feel safe, when masculine dominant men don't feel safe, they'll have a tendency to withdraw and go into solitude, right? And when women don't feel safe, when the feminine doesn't feel safe, it's time to communicate. So now, if both people don't feel safe, they're both communicating. Their instinct is to communicate in the way that they're coming from their perception. It's time to talk. While he's going, it's time to run and go into the cave, right? And so and you can see how the turbulence happens, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So if you can change into perspective mode, like Sasha's amazing at this. Like if I need to just go focus, get in the bathtub, it's part of my cave time, if you will. Go out and meet a buddy or something like that. She's like, absolutely, because one of the ways that I feel safe as a man is to feel free. Okay. And so the more freedom that Sasha gives me, the more I can hardly wait to get back to see her. Because it's just how it works. It seems counterintuitive because if uh, if the feminine isn't getting what she'll want, she'll try to often control the masculine so she can feel safe and secure. But by doing so, the masculine doesn't feel safe and will try to retreat to the cave, which then breeds mistrust. And it's just like it's all just a snake eating its own tail. But when someone takes 100% responsibility for learning how this operates, and it might sound complicated, but it maybe isn't as complicated as I'm making it. It can be quite simple. But once you have parties taking 100% responsibility and leaning into perspective versus perception, like a whole new basket of possibilities for the relationship becomes available.
Why do you think our relationship is so successful?
Well, at least one of us takes 100% responsibility.
We've already established that.
I know, but honestly, like it sounds like maybe even corny or something like that. And I'm not trying to blow my own horn. It's that understanding changes at least how I operate in our relationship dynamic. I wonder how what I would do would affect my relationship with Sasha, not Sasha exactly.
Right. It's that third entity.
It's the third entity.
Right. It's me, you, and the relationship.
Right.
Yes.
And taking so I work in the kind of what I call the tetrahedron model. So in this case, it'd be me, Sasha, who's the relationship itself, and then taking my consciousness up and seeing how the playing field is working. So I watch how I'm doing, how Sasha's doing, and is the relationship energizing and growing, or is it diminishing and shrinking? Because, for instance, an example might be, I don't know. We have very few things like this, but let's say I do something that you don't necessarily like or agree with because you would do it differently or something like that. I'm basically making this up because this rarely ever happens. But let's say I do it, but you know that it's good for me. Like maybe I go up to Edmonton for the weekend.
Okay.
Right. And you know that I'll be drinking whiskey and smoking
a
cigar or whatever, right? But because you know what it does for me, you know what it does for our relationship. Because I come back recharged for that. and the relationship grows. It's investing in the relationship. Even though you might not 100%, want me to do it, but you see the value of me doing it, right?
Right.
Something like that.
Which you've actually never done.
What's that?
Going to Edmonton for the weekend.
I haven't.
And drinking whiskey.
No, but I have for
a day.
A day or
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. Because for sure, I can see that it's something that it's not maybe the best first thing that you would think of right in the moment, but you can see the value for the health of the unit. It's not just what I want in the moment, is right, because that's these intermittent things can add to the growth of the whole.
Yeah. They're understanding how to have the relations system grow and be healthy is part art and part science. Like we can break down the pieces of it, but the art form really resides in the willingness to have it
One of my favorite
work.
words.
Right?
One of my favorite words, the willingness. And when there's no willingness in a relationship, there's nowhere to go.
Here's the one of the great things about willingness is willingness will help insecurity go by the wayside. Because if I'm willing to get it wrong until I get it right, then I'm not getting then I won't beat myself up for not getting it right the first time. You know what I mean? I'll adjust. I'll adapt. I will change the approach. And this is when I was talking about seeking to understand. So being understood is my responsibility.
Yes.
Right. That's an example of that. It is if the way that I'm explaining it this time, then I'm just meeting, glossy eyes or something like that. And it's my responsibility to see if I can say it in a different way and reframe it so it goes in. And I don't give up on that. That's a demonstration of the willingness to understand. Right. And letting go of being understood, the willingness to forgive, it's into a whole bunch of stuff. But
that's such an important trait, that willingness, openness and willingness, because there's so many relationships that are stuck because of the lack of willingness, either on both parts or one part. And that leads to mediocrity, or it's settling, or just frustration. And it's a lot of reasons why I see also relationships fail, because one is willing and wants to grow and move on, and the other one doesn't. And when if you're not met with willingness, what do you do?
Well, you let go of expectation, because there are healthy relationships. Believe it or not, there are healthy relationships where one has no interest in growth, right? And but the love there is there. So this one supports this one's growth, because growth is super high on the hierarchy of needs. Right?
Yeah, I was thinking more like growth in the relationship together, like something, say if there's something not working and one's not willing to they're not willing to take responsibility. Like willingness really ultimately attached to that taking self-responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's always, I was just talking to one woman who she's saying like her husband's always right. It's never him. It's always her. He's perfect. There's nothing he ever has to change. Well,
he's locked in perception, right?
Yeah. Big time.
And, given with the caveat that I don't know who this person is, I haven't talked to them, yada, yada. But based on what you just said, that could be what it is. But the other thing is so what's the 100% responsibility for that other individual, in this case, her, being in that relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's always both sides to that.
And I understand sometimes it's not worth breaking up. Right?
Do you think some people give up too soon?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That goes back to what I started with this concept of earning your exit.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Did you play full out? Did you take responsibility and engage with the willingness to learn some of this stuff to understand how relationship works in the relationship system? Or just does it need to be your way?
Right.
Right? Because there's a difference between people who aren't interested in doing the work, but they're not diminished in the relationship because of that. Right? It still can be a loving relationship as long as everybody's getting their needs met.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think the failure rate is so high and is seemingly increasing?
Well, I truly think it goes more to the systemic things in society of
Engineering of the breakdown of the family.
engineering of the breakdown of the family, and the engineering of the acquisition of your identity, your identity being commandeered and being, now you only have you can choose from these 5 or these 72 or whatever it is, right? And the promotion through the political systems that it's either this way or that way. It's either left or right. It's either red or blue. It is this. You are allowing yourself to be only choosing from the choices that you've been allotted.
And the illusion that you have to choose.
And that you have to choose.
People are like, well, are you this or that? It's like, I don't align with any of that stuff. It's more about discernment of the specific topic at hand. It has nothing to do with whether I'm listening to the guy on the left-hand side or the right-hand side and identifying as Democrat or Republican or a conservative or a liberal. It's so preposterous that we have politicized our life to that degree. It's such an illusion that if you are not a liberal, you are a Republican or not Republican. What am I trying to say? No, I just said it. No, I can't. Conservative.
Yes, conservative.
So this idea that you have to choose, people have really bought into that idea that they have to
100%.
choose a side.
And it goes even deeper. It goes into then you choose a side, you make a vote. Now you have a representative, a representative, which means that you've agreed to whatever they decide you support because they are now representing you, and you have volunteered that, right? So as you reel in, I work with this thing called leaking. People leak. And when men and women leak, it looks different. The masculine leaking looks different than the feminine leaking, but I'm not going to get into those kinds of.
I think we talked about it in our last.
Probably.
Listen to our fireside chat a year and a half ago. It was very good.
And so when people leak, they become susceptible, and they want someone else to solve the leak. But
do they know they're leaking?
No.
No.
Not until it's presented to them. My experience has been, at least, people are get into like a holy shit moment. It's like, holy shit. That's exactly how I feel. Right. And once I started understanding how people are acting through the lens of leaking, the perception of everything changed. Like the perspective changes. It's like, huh. They're this is not a bad person. This is just someone who's leaking. And this is where they're leaking. And then then it's easier to identify where the leak is and help them understand that they could seal that leak if they want. And then their process of how to seal that leak. And so you can imagine is if the leaking stops, then you have more energy available to you. But what's promoted is we're indoctrinated to leak money, leak responsibility, right? You need a lawyer, you need some other authority you need a doctor. You need a doctor, you need a lawyer, you need a teacher, you need An authority.
An authority or an expert.
An expert. Outside of yourself, like, if you're building a bridge, you probably want an expert, design.
There's a time and a place for experts, for sure.
Absolutely. But it's in these nebulous things where the masters of the psychology of this stuff know how to push your buttons, know how to capitalize on the buttons. Know how to capitalize on your buttons being pushed. It gets more into the money stuff. So now you're medicated either on actual pharmaceuticals or drugs or alcohol or sex or video games or porn or entertainment or binge watching. None of us are not susceptible to these things.
People are constantly titillating themselves. It's this constant titillation.
Yeah. People don't know how to just sit and be. Right? And
just sit and knit, folks.
I talk when I'm working with people and they begin to understand this, things begin to slow down. And when you slow down and the world is still operating at the regular speed, things, the perspective changes. And one of the things that eventually will happen is the wave that you've been running from will eventually catch up to you. But what you want to do is just sit still while it crashes and you see what you have to deal with. But people are so busy outrunning the wave because they're afraid that if the wave gets them, the ramifications of that. But the wave will crash, and when it retreats, you'll have a better perspective of what it is that you are actually dealing with. So, in a metaphorical way, it's important to let the wave crash. Don't be afraid of the mess.
Life can be messy.
Life can be messy.
But we try to stuff it under the rug.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a good place for it.
Yeah.
At least you know where it is when you need to go find it.
Okay, well, we've been going for quite some time. I think this is nice insight into relationships because we need to build these. I think we need to rebuild a lot in this world, but rebuilding healthy relationships, first of all, with yourself. That primary relationship with yourself, knowing who you are, being confident in who you are, not trying to please everybody else, not living for the good opinion of others. That is so key before you can really truly find a successful relationship with somebody outside of yourself. And when you have it, I just he'll do things for me, just normal everyday things. And my mom's just like, oh, in my next life, one time. I'm like, Mom, this is like a daily occurrence. And not that I work hard, maybe I do sometimes, but I work hard to not take anything for granted either. I very much appreciate my man.
And this is how the flywheel keeps spinning and keeps strong is we don't ever do those four horsemen things, right? What
are they again?
They are criticism, condemnation, defensiveness, or stonewalling. So given the silent treatment, withdrawn.
Oh,
that's right. What that means.
Yeah. Somebody's really good at that. Yeah.
And you'll get more of what you focus on. And
yes.
When the things are good, you keep talking about the good. You're talking about how amazing your partner is at this. And there's other things I believe that happen at play too. You begin to make manifest those things. Right? Because you'll get more of what you focus on. And if you can, this helping each other win.
Mm.
What it is that I can help, what can I do to help you win, honey? Right? And this especially works for the men because men like keeping score and
You want to
playing
be the
games and
knight.
stuff like this, right?
They want to be the knight in shining
We do.
armor.
We want to be that for you ladies. But
Just accept it.
if you
Accept it.
ladies fall prey, if you find yourself falling prey to doing things that emasculate your man, that's a you thing.
Yeah, and we talked about that in the last talk a lot, is there's also a role as a woman to support the masculine in the healthy masculine,
Yeah.
right?
Which is completely under attack out there.
So under attack. We've been brainwashed that we can do it all, that we don't need a man, that we can do anything a man can do. Well, yeah, well, I don't. First of all, I'm not as strong as him by any stretch of the imaginations. I don't want to deal with the stinky stuff that he has to deal with. I don't want to deal with the car stuff that he has to deal with. I want to move all the heavy things. Like, I am so thankful for that. And if you're going to hire someone to do certain things that you can't do yourself, chances are it's going to be a man. We need our men to do the manly things and the women to do the womanly things. There's just a natural order, and it's going to be a range. Sure, absolutely, there's going to be a range. But good Lord, when we have those healthy roles, and we would naturally fall into them, I think, if we weren't told otherwise, then things would just naturally unfold so much more healthily and more naturally. And just the people recovering from their childhoods, right? This is why they behave the way they behave. We could just create, that was one of my goals when we had our son, is to create a program so that we can raise healthy, well-adjusted kids that don't have to recover from their childhoods. Bring wisdom back into the home. Bring health and wisdom back into the home. And for many, it's just not a safe place, unfortunately. And it starts with each and every one of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I was just kind of alluding to it, but I'm gonna say this more clearly. Is in a relationship where the other is feeling like they're winning. If both parties feeling like they're winning, so doing things by adjusting, going from perception to perspective, and all, like seeing it from a different point of view, seeing how you're acting, and seeing if the other person and the relationship itself up is energizing and stuff. By doing those things, you'll keep playing a game that you feel like you're winning at. But if you're not feeling like you're winning, and men will not play a game that they can't win with. Right. And then, unfortunately, that's one of the things that is more gender specific is men need to feel especially like they're winning, and that there's a way to win.
So what's, just quickly, you have to go. What's an example of how they're winning? What kind of a response from their partner would be a win for them?
Well, something you do that helps me feel like I'm winning is when you recognize the little things that I do and never take them for granted, just like you said earlier. And some people might go, oh man, I'm like always appeasing it. But if that's your energy to it, then you're not trying to win. You're just playing strategy. But you mean it. And
we appreciate it.
And I'll tell you this, when Sascha is talking to someone else and she says something about me, like he just does these little things, right? Because relationships, it's things that are cumulative that make or break relationship.
Right. Like the little things that you don't like also accumulate and can really break it.
Absolutely. So committing to, and you do it like it's nothing. And maybe even at some points you feel like, does he really need to hear this? But I feel like I'm winning when I get recognized for like whatever. Filling the tank.
Yes.
Right.
That was the latest one again. It's like, oh, it's full.
Yeah. And one of my quiet little games that I play is the hope that Sascha never has to fill a gas tank in our household. Stupid, I know, but it's not. It can seem silly, where it can seem like Sascha can get her own gas because she's a grown woman, but that's not the point. The point is it something that she appreciates? She recognizes her appreciation for it, and so I just want to do more of it. And that's how the game can work. It can be like that.
Yeah. Thank him so much. So great. So great. Okay, baby love. Well, it's great. Lots of insights into healthy relationships, and it's worth it. It's worth the effort. It's just worth humbling yourself, just looking at yourself. None of us are perfect. We're still all working on our little deficiencies or bigger deficiencies. But it's so worth it in the end to have a healthy relationship, to have a healthy, happy, harmonious family. That's part of what I'm programming in my subconscious mind at night, actually, is harmony in my home, and just that everybody's fulfilled. Everybody's, just, it's big. One happy family after another. Imagine if we had a whole world of happy families.
Right.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
No kidding.
Yeah. So, anything else before we go? I think that's it. Let me just quickly scan here what I said. I think I got it. Well, I didn't talk about that, but that's okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Relationships, folks. I mean, you talk about the needs. I know most people are looking for a healthy relationship, whether they believe that it's possible or not. Pretty sure most people would be happy to find that in the end.
Totally.
So thank you. So Tym actually does. Okay, so you have a couple of, so you're creating, so you coach clients,
Yep.
couples, singles, whatever. You've even done some
Relationship with
stuff.
self, relationship with others, relationship with work and society, relationship with source, different relationships.
And you can find them at Tymothy, Tymothy, Roy.com, TymothyRoy.com. And
but also check out, because I'm going to have some stuff releasing here. Feel free to check out gettingrelationshipright.com.
Okay.
If you kind of want the latest about some things that are on the go.
So
there's going to be some things there.
You want to say anything about it or not?
Well, right now I'm creating a relationship alchemy course that's specially geared. It's geared for more people who are in a relationship, but they're questioning, should I be is it the Ramones? Should I stay or should I go? No.
The Ramones?
No, I think it's the Clash.
So.
I think it's the Clash. And should I
Should
stay?
you stay or
should I
should
go?
I go?
Oh, that yeah.
Because that's the thing too. Is it worth it in the first place?
Yeah.
Because yes, people do give up early.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the wrong relationship.
Yeah, it is.
And it's costing you
if you are
dearly.
If you're up for it, if you're up for this idea of earning your exit, if you're thinking about maybe even having the thoughts that you're maybe not in the right relationship, maybe you've moved out, maybe you're separated, all this stuff, I'm seriously invite you to think about this idea of earning your exit. Have I left it all on the floor? Like, is there enough of the relationship to explore before you're throwing it in the bin? Because have you done what you've needed to do? We called it leaving all on the ice in hockey, right? Left it all on the ice, right? You know that you exhausted the possibilities. And if you have exhausted all the possibilities, because people come to me all the time, I've tried everything. I'm like, have you? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Well, no. And
they say that about their health too. You sure about that?
Sure about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're honest with yourself, chances are you haven't. And it takes courage and it takes commitment, but it can be done. You can change the perspective of how a relationship works, but not to necessarily save the relationship. It's the trick is to commit to it and to have the courage to face it, because you know that that's how you want to roll in relationship. And if you can get behind that idea, then maybe we can talk.
Okay, TymothyRoy.com, Timothy with the Y, with two Y's, and gettingrelationshipright.com. Check those out, see what's coming down the pike. Tim is amazing at what he does. He is an amazing coach, really, truly. I cry often when I hear about stories and transformations. I can actually cry right now because that's just what I do. So anyways, so yes, so I hope you enjoyed this. Share this with people that you know. We all want happy relationships, whether they be friendships, romantic relationships, relationships with ourselves. Really, truly, we need to fall in love with ourselves too, right? We need to fall in love with ourselves and stop living for other people. Anyways, so please share. Thank you for tuning in. You can find this on your favorite platform. Like, subscribe. Hey, maybe give a review. Help this show grow. It's slowly, slowly growing. It was going, but something happened and the brakes have been put on. So I appreciate any love you can give the show. And thanks for tuning in, folks. Until next time, ciao.